I rearranged my screens on my, I have one of these stands that holds four monitors on one and four monitors on the other, and I rearranged how I had the mouse linked to them, and so it's been a little bit, I've confused myself effectively. Okay, so important to know, poorly auctioned through here, right down to the back to right here, we tend to get a responsive buy right before we finish getting a poorly auctioned area. So I am looking in this location to take a long. I almost certainly will. If you need additional help and you don't want to just take it into a free fall, look for a 1 minute tick divergence in the zone, right? Or the other way to do that is if we get tick divergence right in front of the zone, wait till it gets into the zone and then take the trade back up. Remember, just because we get tick divergence does not mean we get an immediate response. We can get tick divergence and have it sit in the zone for an extended period of time and then pop back higher. Okay. I want to point a little bit lower in case we do get true meltdown scenario. This 191750 is huge right here, and I would expect this to hold. Consider we'll be down 400 or 500 points if you still want to trade when we're melting down that hard. But this is a huge trade location. I will take a shot at a long here. As a matter of fact, I'll take a shot at a long here with a 5-point stop behind. I will cut my trade size, and I will try to launch actually something back up into this area. I'll also be looking to buy options down here if we get into this area. I don't think we will. This is really would be something we haven't seen in a very long time. Okay. What will the short side trades look like? Okay, so assuming that we're opening around 1950 and assuming that we don't get the extreme negative tick reading, in which case the short side will be off, right? So the first thing that concerns me with the way the market's been acting is the traps on ES back to the upside, right? With the exception of the first hour low, because we're opening below Wednesday's low, a rotation back up into Wednesday's low, I believe will actually provide a potential short area. I'll look for 1 minute tick divergence in this area to see if I can't get a rotation back lower. Also, 1952, 1954, there's an open gap here. We're opening just below it, but just like when we rotate lower into an open gap and it usually provides support back up, it can provide resistance on the downside for a rotation lower. Again, I'll look for tick divergence. It'll all really, a lot of it will depend on how this is looking and when we hit this location, meaning if we hit it in the first hour, it might be different than if we hit it at 1:30 in the afternoon where we might be experiencing a short squeeze back to the upside. Okay, so there's two zones in here I have marked with question marks, 19, this one, and this one. I need 1 minute tick divergence to take trades in these locations, otherwise I'm not interested. Also, if we trap above Wednesday's low, it would make sense that they would make an attempt to come in and close the gap. Okay, I have a feeling we're not going to close the gap at all today on ES, but if we get above, it is certainly possible that we get in here. Therefore, on the zones with question marks, I must have 1 minute tick divergence or I'll skip on the trade. They're definitely weaker zones on both sides of this, okay? They're valid, they're just weaker, right? Think about the logic. If you've trapped above, right, everyone's going to go, okay, well, let's just kind of scoot it in and come in and close the gap would be pretty logical. Also, the other kind of pattern you could see is if you come in here, get rejection back down, and then the second time, make the move for gap fill. Okay, I really don't feel like spending a whole lot of time on areas above because I don't think we're going to get there, but there are zones above that are pretty much 72 to 74, 77 and 3/4 to 79 and 3/4. That should be corrected just a drop. Okay, and then the year-to-date high, 83 3/4 to 85 and 3/4. I have no idea what they would do to get this up there, right? So let's put one more thing in perspective here this morning so that we know what we're looking at. Okay, so if we go back and look at what our biggest down days were, we're generally hitting 20 to 25 point down days. Okay, so ES is opening up roughly down 14 points here at 1950 and 3/4. Okay, so we have a couple of things going for us. Let's think through this logically so we don't let fear overcome us. First of all, we know this is a 50 to 60 retrace area. This already puts us 15 down. If we add another 10 beyond that 1950, that puts us into this 1940 and 3/4, right? I would expect an attempt at a rotation up. Very important today, okay? And you have to make a decision beforehand. If it takes more than 15 or 20 minutes to make a trade work, decide now whether you're going to either just close the trade out, take whatever profits in the trade, move the stop to swing low, or live with the 2-point stop behindhand, 2-point stop behind the zone. What I would encourage you is to make that decision now before it gets to the market, and then don't forget to grade yourself on your performance based on following your process as opposed to following what the market's doing. A day like today makes it very easy to get swayed from following structure to following your emotion, right? We're going to have big nasty red candles down and we're going to have big nasty green candles back up, right? It's just the nature of having a highly volatile day. If you don't follow your process and you try to make a decision while the market's operating, you're highly likely to screw it up, right? So just make a decision beforehand and live with it. My assumption today is I'm going to get 2 stop outs today. Why am I making that assumption? I'm making that assumption so that I can live with the anxiety, fear, whatever you want to call it, of having to buy when the market is shooting straight down, right? If I don't do that, I go to the opposite end of the extreme, which means I'm going to try to be perfect in my entries. And if I'm not perfect in my entry and the trade starts going against me, every bone in my body is going to want to close that trade out before I take a full stop. And I'm usually going to end up screwing myself out of a profitable trade. So that's the imagery I use to help myself, is that I just go ahead and assume that I'm going to donate those 2 stops to the market today. If it works out differently, it's all upside. If I get out on a flat trade because it's exceeded 15 or 20 minutes, right, that's still fine because what my expectation is, and I usually don't come in with a I'm going to lose, right, but the only way I have to combat extreme volatility is to assume that I'm probably going to get hit because usually for traders that have difficulties, and remember, I'm the worst trader in the world left to my own devices. If I make the assumption the other way that I'm going to nail it and make a ton of money, as soon as things start working incorrectly, I go into a fight or flight mode, and I start making terrible trading decisions. So at any rate, that's my assumption. That's how I'm going to handle it. I'm really looking for, given the size of the gap down, I'm looking for 10-point rotations minimum on the downside to make a trade, right? So if we open at 51, 41 is the first place I'm really looking to get trade location, right? You may see me playing NQ to the long side and ES to the short side. The other thing I'm looking at is even if we get a 10-point rotation, right, are we able to get more than 5 or 6 points to the upside before getting selling, right? The other thing that I'm looking at in my trade plan is the more stretched we get, right, the more I'm willing to take that trade. So I am willing here. This is down roughly 23 or 24 points. This is down almost 30, right? And down into this, we would be down almost 35, I want to say, actually, this is 25, almost 35 points down here. Okay, I'm willing to lose. This is the one area I'm actually willing. There's going to be no time limit on this area is what I'm trying to say. I'm really willing to take it at the top, and I'm going to actually cut my trade size here, and I'm going to add 2 points. I'm actually willing to take a 4-point stop behind. So I'm going to cut my trade size and use a very wide stop through here because this is really, really stretched, and we have the potential to launch back up into this 1948 area, I believe, 1940 or 1948 from this 1929 trade location if we get down into it. Okay, so hopefully I was pretty clear with how I'm going to handle it. I'm not going to worry so much about trying to pick things off the open. We do have econ at 8:45. It is the, let me see here real quick, 8:45 Chicago Purchasing Managers Index, and I believe that is actually released 2 minutes early to subscribers. I can't swear to that, but I think that's right. I showed no other data besides natural gas coming out during the day, and I show no Fed speakers today. Okay, so I'm going to give the market time to develop. Also, on these rotations back up, okay, I want to be clear. So let's say we do get down here. We open here, let's say we get in here, and we do rotate up, and we do get to 1954, and I have 1 minute tick divergence, I'm actually going to be willing to take a shot to the short side with 1 minute tick divergence in these locations, and that's a change. I haven't been willing to do that, but based on the weakness I've seen in ES on the last 2 days, I think that that'll be a profitable trade. I'm willing to take the risk, so I will be looking for shorts back on the upside. And same thing here, right? If we get down to this location and we move back up into this 1940 area and I see 1 minute tick divergence, okay, I will be willing, assuming it's not the last hour and a half of the day, I will be willing to take a shot to the downside. Okay, so let me show you a chart real quick just so y'all can see what I'm talking about here. And man, it's been a long time since we've had a big down day, but let's see if we can find it here. Let's just go to a 15-minute chart. Okay, so obviously what the concern is that we end up with, here, let's spread this out a little bit more. I went to an extreme there. Okay, so my concern is that we get a reversal like this. Oh, remember the reversal hours, 9:30 to 11 a.m., right? So my concern is, obviously, is that we get an extended move down like we had here on the 21st, and then we get a huge push back to the upside. Okay. But if you look prior to that, really the ES wasn't showing any amount of extreme weakness, and we've been following this pattern almost every single time with the exception of this day. And even on this day, we'd been getting strong reversals back up. That's changed the last couple of days. Yesterday, starting 2 days ago, we haven't been getting this reversal in ES. We've seen pronounced weakness in ES, as a matter of fact, and in front of the Fed, which is unusual. And so that's why I'm giving the possibility that we don't get these strong upside reversals. If you go back to, see if I can actually find an example of where we started down and kept down all day. Hold on one second here. Okay, so this is an example of where we gapped down, we drove lower, we got a reversal, right? This reversal ended up being from 1924 all the way up to 1932-ish, let's say, right? So roughly 8 points to the upside before we had a hard rollover. My concern is, again, when we get into the very end of the day, past 130, right, these strong bounces that the market tends to have, even in down markets. So put in your notes, at the end of the day, even in bear markets, we tend not to close on the low of the day. Don't press your short. The odds that you get that low close are pretty finite. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find one more example to prepare everyone, and then I'll go on to NQ really quick. But they're trying to get, the reason why, and I'm hopeful they'll actually pull the ES up a bit, and the reason why I'm saying that is that won't give us that extreme open, and that's simply purely selfish. I tend to suck at that extreme tick open. I'm going to try to see how far back I can go. Okay, here's another example. This is a smaller gap down, right? But we did get that responsive buy, but then we drove down. I promise you, if you look in here, there was 1 minute tick divergence right in this. Also, the other thing I want to point out is that if you look on these days, okay, first of all, when we got to support, we sat here a long time, and I promise you both here and here we had tick divergences to help us out. Also, look, this is a 15-minute chart, right? Look at where we broke down. This breakdown didn't actually occur all the way until we got into New York lunch. Okay, so this will be easier, as y'all know, once the market opens to get a good read on it. In front of that, we're guessing. Once again, we got past the 1 o'clock hour here, and you can see we bottomed, and they squeezed it back up. I will not be looking to press to the short. Well, I usually am not trading at the end of the day anyways, but even if I am, it won't be depressed to the short side. Very few examples. Even if you go back to last summer, I don't know if I can get back there that far, but I don't think I could find 5 examples if you paid me of where we closed on the low of the day. We consistently get this rip back up. So just be cognizant of that. Also be cognizant, a lot of these breakdowns have come over the last couple of months between this 11 and 12 o'clock hour. pretty consistently. Okay, you can see even here before we made this move down, we gapped down and we hung up sideways, and then we made a push down just after New York lunch. So be cautious. My word would be cautious over New York lunch either way, because these breaks have been coming both higher and lower over New York lunch, which is one of the reasons why I hate trading in that period of time. Trying to see if I can find another example where we broke down and kept going down. Here's the closest example we had again, where we opened, and if you look, right, so this is 9:30, this is after the first hour right there, and if you look at the extension from the open, 1860, if you targeted down to this 1850, and then you look for structure, right, this is 10 points, 60, 50, and then you look for structure or whatever support areas in that area, it gave you great trade location for moves back to the upside. And then if you also look, right, New York once again, I guarantee you we got 1 minute tick divergence in here, and then it rolled to the downside, and then we're getting this push back up. I would not be surprised to see a pattern that looks very much like this. And again, I think NQ will be the easier push up than ES will. So let's go talk about NQ really quick. Okay, so the first thing I want to highlight, 50-60 retraces are sitting here near this 3920 area that I've highlighted on the chart, and then based on how you draw it, just below in this 3890 to 3895 location is another potential 50-60 retrace area. The blue areas are poorly auctioned areas. We can easily slip through those. I realize this looks like a 5-year-old went to town on this, but this is exactly what this is. And you'll notice this is the same. This 3931 is the exact same low as it was from yesterday's poorly auctioned area. If you look on the chart that I posted yesterday, and you'll notice overnight we came down exactly to it and then rotated back up. So we came through that poorly auctioned area. The deal with poorly auctioned areas is that the market tends to like to repair those during the U.S. session. So I would not be surprised to see a revisit down to that 31. I would expect responsive buyers on NQ the first time into that 31 area, okay, for a push back up. I don't know that it'll necessarily hold the first time in. NQ has definitely been stronger than ES, hands down. Okay, so I will be looking, assuming I can get the rotation size. So let's talk about that for a second. Assuming the 3940 open right now, right? If we get 15 points will put us down into 40, 30, 25, right into the top of this 50-60 retrace area. I will look to see if I can't get location here for a pushback higher out of here. And then the next one, right after this, I'm going to look another 15 down if this doesn't hold. So 3920 is going to bring me back down to 3905, right? I know this is a poorly auctioned area, so I'm going to see if we can't push down into this 3895 to get trade location for a move back to the upside again from there. Consider if we get down to this 3900 area, right, we'll be down over 60 points at that particular point. 3940 actually puts us down, 3940 puts us down 30 points. So at 3900, obviously we'll be down 70 points at that point. That'll be a really big stretch. I'll be looking for a push back to the upside. The other thing that I want to remind everyone of, when we have these big nasty down days, generally the rule of thumb has been consistently the next 2 days, trades to the upside have been extremely easy. So I'm not going, the other part of the balancing here is I'm not going to force my hand, forcing myself to make money when it's the most difficult, meaning the first hour, right, it's probably going to be the most difficult time of day today to make money over, from the next 3 days over, right? Tomorrow and the following day will probably be much gentler in terms of getting good trade location and then getting nice rotations back up. Okay, everyone will have calmed down. So keep that in mind. Know how you're going to trade this. I can't stress this enough over and over, and particularly because of the nature of our business, we get very focused on one day. We may be trading day by day, but just like any business, our goal is to grow our bottom line and our trading account over the course of the weeks, months, and years, right? Taking missteps or taking losses is part of the deal, but we don't have to enter the market when it's at its most volatile, right? We get plenty of opportunities when it's nice and gentle. So I'm not, a couple of ways to handle that, right? When it gets more volatile is it's okay to cut trade size. It's okay to skip the first hour. Give yourself permission to do that. Be nice to yourself. Waiting to see 1 minute tick divergence on the downside, right, is a much easier way to get trade location for a reversal back up than simply taking the zone blindly. It'll certainly reduce anxiety. Now, on any other day where I would say there's not news or there's nothing affecting the markets, right, I would be quite different. I'd say you just got to take it first time into the zone and get paid. But I know that this first hour has a potential of ripping in either direction through the zones, up or down, based on how actually serious the institutions regard this news. So I have no read on the news. I have no opinion on it as to whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. All I do know is that we are likely to get tick divergence, and we're likely to get launches out of these areas, these 50 to 60 areas, back to the upside. They probably won't make it easy, right? And I know that if I skip the first hour, right, I let the first hour go, that I'm likely to get good trades in the second and third hour of the day today. So really that's all I have. Charts are way behind commentary. Maybe it's my problem. Hey, is anyone else? Thank you, Harry. Harry's commenting that the charts are really slow today, updating. Is anyone else having that issue? It could be on my end, possibly. Everyone is. Okay. Okay, everyone across the board is saying the same thing. Okay. I don't know why that is, but I will call and see if I can't get that resolved. There's a big lag the last few days. Okay, Bill, thank you. I'll see if I can't get that resolved one way or the other, and I'll call GoToMeeting and see what I can do to get it resolved. Hold on 1 second. I may have missed a message. Sorry, Walt, I sure can. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. Thank you, Jackson. Okay, I'll work on it, guys. I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, but I will work to make sure that it gets resolved the best I can. So again, remember when we're setting up for the day, just give yourself space to let the market come to you. Wait for the stretches intraday, right? What are our key rotations in NQ? 15 and 30 are the key rotations, and ES, the key rotations are 8 to 10 point rotations, right? So this is the first time we've had in a while where we're having really volatile markets pre-market. Let's see where the tick opens up. I will stay on with y'all today. I've said I'm not going to do that every day, and I've done it every day this week. And sorry for the delay. I'll see if I can't get it fixed as quickly as possible. Let's see something here. I may just need to run this. It may be on my side. I may just need to run this on my backup computer and see if that relieves some of the burden on this. But it looks like my memory, I'm not using very much of my memory at all. So anyways, we'll get that resolved as quickly as we can, and we'll go from there. Does anyone else have any other questions? No, Mari, it looks like it's on my end. No, I'm aware of that. It was just a bank. One country, one bank, right? Both and separate, right? Not the same place. So at any rate, I wouldn't think Portugal would matter to anybody, but there you have it. Apparently it does. So bank in Portugal is bringing the world markets to its knees. Also, I think the combination of this thing in Russia, and also the markets do go up and down. It's been an exceptionally long time since we haven't had volatility. I'm really praying for the volatility to return. It makes it much easier to make money. That's not what I wanted to do. I'm trying to see what I can do to see if I can't. I will see what I can do to fix the delay, guys. So I'm going to take a quick break, refill my cup of coffee. I'll be back in just 2 minutes. And let's have a great day. Let's follow our trade plans. Okay, guys, I'm back. And we're about to open. Okay, it looks like we came out that Glovex low. ES pushing, trying to push the lows. Tick is at an extreme, negative 1,000, guys, so keep that in mind. I haven't seen this exactly reverse just yet. So that has resulted in a reversal each and every time, and we're right into sorry about that, right into that 1948 zone. They are trying very hard to lift this. Tick is still negative 1,000. There goes the lift. Thank you, trying for the highs of the day. So even if you didn't take the long, you knew, obviously, right? We don't short into gap downs. I did not take that long in ES. Once again, I have goofed that. Trying to get everything set. Pushing highs on NQ. Remember, the rotation's been up 6 points. 5 to 6 points has been the rotation up. So I would take us from 47 to roughly 53, which would be right in the middle of the open gap right above it. Yeah, Harry, I saw that. I did not take that trade. Once again, this will be the umpteenth time that I've missed this trade. Down 14 on ES, down only 30 on NQ. We'll see if those sellers come back in. Remember, all we have to drive this is that PMI in roughly, I believe it's released privately in 5 minutes. I'm going to increase the size of this chart here. NQ still pushing. Notice ES is not pushing with NQ. And then don't forget to count the rotation off the low, right, guys? Low was 39.30, so 39.45 will bring a 15-point rotation higher. ES is already starting to show signs of not following along with NQ, so be aware. Nice job, Tom. You're very welcome, Ian. Good job. One day I will actually get paid on that trade. Pretty swift back to the downside on NQ. We're still negative 700 on the tick. Keep that in mind. Okay, so we've come off significantly off the lows. But remember, on a trend day down, tick will remain negative all day long. Not saying that today is that day, but Wow. Okay. That was a that was an algo, guys. If no one else saw that, wowee. I think someone wanted out there. Real tug of war going on here. Huge. Okay, guys, so what are we looking for now? First of all, what does the market reveal to us? First of all, it's thin. I just saw the market jump down 2 points and 1 tick, I believe. Was I the only one to see it, or did everyone say that? This isn't an open drive lower. This is a gap lower. I wouldn't characterize this as an open drive up either. Look at the bar. First bed bar is down. No, I wouldn't care. I just characterize it as a test open. They've tested upside and downside to this point. I wouldn't characterize it either way. If anything, I would say it has excessive weakness, right? Look at NQ. NQ is possibly open drive higher, but it's failing pretty hard right here as well. And so we know we've had a rotation up to approximately 1952, right? So where does that put us with a 10-point rotation lower? 1941 is the first trade location that we want to see as far as entry. What do we want if you want the additional security of not getting ripped through that zone? 1 minute tick divergence. Okay, this is exactly on a day where I'd go and want to lean heavily on tick divergence if I get it. Right now, I'm just going to be nice and calm and not try to force anything. The general public's about to get what apparently everyone else just got. This could either just be a backside test of the lows, or it could be a precursor to coming down and testing that backside. What will usually happen, this is a larger picture, 50 to 60 retrace area. So what will usually happen is you get responsive buyers at the 50 retrace. They try to stick it. They'll come back and run those stops to the backside and then push up. Doesn't have to work that way, but it's nice when it does. Is the delay still significant? I've tried to shut down a couple of things to see if it'll help. Okay, so far pretty vicious whipsaw and chops on both NQ and ES. What does that tell me again? I want to be cautious with where I enter, and I don't want to draw a conclusion one way or the other of what has to happen or doesn't have to happen, right? So we're starting to approach, we're at negative 315, we're starting to get towards that zero, right? And actually today's the feeling I have. I have a feeling if we can get to the zero tick, it may actually set us up for a nice downside trade on ES. I haven't said that in a long time. and Q actually making a run for the lows while ES isn't. That's kind of bizarre. So remember, we usually make our money intraday, right? 10-point extensions up or 10-point extensions down. I'm going to let them do what they've got to do in terms of whipping this thing back and forth. I don't want to get caught in the whip. There's a reason why. Look at that. That was right into that backside test of where we discussed earlier, that 1952. And it was also a 6-point rotation higher, guys. I'm actually going to take a short at 1952 if they'll fill me. I have a limit in at 52. I'm not filled yet. 4-point stop. So this is a pretty aggressive trade considering how much we're down. This is just going with the concept that ES has been weaker than NQ. I might be very, very wrong on this. But that's what I'm doing. Full size, 1952. But no fill. And that was a 0-tick test, by the way. So now 0-tick on the downside has not worked well in a long, long time. I'm simply going with it. ES has been weaker than NQ over the last 2 days. And we'll see if that theme continues. They could come and just take me right out on this stop. I am filled now at 1952, by the way. The other thing I'm keen off is NQ isn't running. NQ's been the leader of the last couple of days. So I will scale this at 1950, and I'll leave a trailer for the balance. Come on, give me the fill, guys. Hmm. Filled, 1950. Anyone else get it? Everyone should have gotten filled there. And now for certain. Nice. That's a good way. I've been having a hard time capturing these trades. So I took half off there, and I am going to move stop to break even at this point. Okay, they're retesting that Globex low on NQ, and they're obviously trying to high it. Oddly, ES is stronger than NQ, which is a switch. Okay, so still the rotation down is approximately 1942. Still brings us down into this trade location. I'm still not convinced of the reversal back up. And here we go. Boom. Let's see it move. Let's get to 40. 40, 42. We've now broken below Globex low. I can't reiterate how interesting it is that NQ's actually switched and is the leader on the downside. Guys are getting smoked there hard. Okay, ES is actually showing relative strength. Okay, give it time, give it its rotation. So what's the rotation down at this point? High is 39.42, so that brings up 32. 27 is 15 down, which is right now. And if we get 30 down, right, if we go from 27, 17, 12, that would be a 30-point rotation lower. Given the weakness in NQ, I'm going to give it a 30-point stretch instead of taking the 15-point stretch. It's actually been leading on the downside. So you see people are noticing that 15-point rotation. See how they're trying to step in here? But to me, the logic is, look, if we couldn't reverse it, and NQ has been the strongest every single day for the last couple of days, right? The swings have been hard to the upside. Now NQ is leading me to the downside. I don't want to be the first one to step in and say this is a bottom, right? What I'd like to see is, what I would have liked to have seen is ES be weaker, stretch down 10, and then see NQ come in with a 15 or to a 30-point rotation, and then come in and step in on that. So I'm sidestepping for right now. I'm going to take 47.25 if they'll fill me here. Done. Okay, so I have another scale. I have a quarter of the position left now. So that was for +5. Boom. Nice trade off the open. That's great. It's been a while. So keep up with the rotation, right? And then realize, let's look to the left here real quick on NQ. Okay, at the risk of being a distraction, I removed that NQ chart off on purpose. Okay, let's go look for structure back here. Where are we right now? Hell. I have to go so far back into this gap. Okay, so we're either going to get some type of, here's our structure right here. From here down to here, 17 to 14, and after that, 11 to 10. That's our next two areas, right? Okay, notice under 10, we have a huge vacuum right into that 95, 88, and we know that's a 50, 60 retrace area too, guys. Be very aware of that, okay? So this 10 has to hold, and I suspect the first time into this 10, we're going to get a potential reversal, if not right off this area here. So let's switch this back to a 5-minute and go back and see what we're dealing with. And guys, let's hope this holds up. This would be great if we could get increased volatility. Scarier markets mean more money for us all the way around. Remember, we're only down 18 right now, right? We can get a 25 to 30 point stretch before major reversal here. Obviously, we came right off that 19 to 17 location. And that was 45 down, right? So that was 3 rotations from the close. I'm still going to be patient. I didn't like the way that we started off with it being the weaker of the two. Okay, we obviously came right back to that 1946. I'm really looking for this area right here, 1942.50 to 1940.50. The only thing I can say about that is we had tick divergence, but it was from the open where we had that tick extreme. So I'm going to start counting that tick divergence from here now, as opposed to down here. It's too far away, if that makes sense. Let's spread this out a little bit. Here, we'll shorten this up. We'll spread this out. So you'll notice we had just the slightest amount of tick divergence on that push lower and the response that we got off of it. And that was a hard response off that location down there. Okay, so what are we doing technically on ES, right? See, this is a breakdown from structure. Well, it wasn't significant. Breakdown, backside test. Often, not always, that'll lead to a push lower, right? There's the last little bit of structure. Of course, this is a 1 minute chart, so take it for what it's worth. Off of a 5 minute, this whole thing is structure here. So this would be the breakdown. This would be the backside test of that breakdown. And then we'll see they'll either push lower or they'll come back up. All of this is poorly auctioned through here. Keep that in mind. NQ bouncing pretty hard. Well, so far the zones have been spot on so far. Both upside and downside. Remember, this is the second test, right? We rotated, we opened, we tested down, we've come up. This is the second test, right? Usually third tests break. Keep that in mind. We're still prior to the first hour of the day. Okay, so we still have time to get an extended downside move from here. We still have not had a very wide intra-day range, right? That would bring us right in here and what would seem to be a pretty sweet setup for a trade to the upside. That was a big rotation, essentially 1940 down to 1920. It was a 20-point rotation down, okay, on NQ. Notice rotations down also. Rotations down bigger than rotations up. It doesn't mean anything right now necessarily, but just keep up with it. See if that's a continuing pattern. And the size of the rotation up versus the size of the rotation down. It's still early. There's plenty of time to trap people. Remember, people have been pretty accustomed to this thing reversing for them and saving them, just buying it when we're down 10 or 15 points and just sitting on it all day. When that pattern changes, it'll get ugly, but it's going to have to change first. I'm holding this last quarter for 42 for a 43 cover, 2 ticks in front of that 42.50 zone. So remember, this was second time into the zone. And without tick divergence, we had the smallest of tick divergences right here, but that was pretty weak. Also, with NQ leading us to the downside, I'm going to be patient. Be right back, guys. I'm going to fill up my cup of coffee.